Hello, hello, all of my beautiful friends. Welcome to a week in my life running my little gift shop and art studio called the Owl's Nest Studio. If you're new here, my name is Melanie, aka the Swimming Owl, and I'm a full-time mixed media artist. And really, I just love to bring my own little whimsical worlds to life through my artwork and also my illustrated coloring books. So I hope you'll come spend a slow week with me in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan inside my cozy little shop here. Now, we are still in the super slow season here in my town, so that means I have a lot of time to work on my creative projects like illustrating coloring books, working on my paintings. That way I can fill up the walls in the studio as much as possible before we enter into late spring and summer. And if you stick around, you're going to get some glimpses at my cute little doggo in the studio as well. Her name is Ketsi, so if you see her and you're wondering, that's who is kind of wandering around inside with me sometimes. So while I was working on all of these little creative projects that keep me busy, I also had something else really amazing and completely unexpected happen this week, where a journalist from our county's newspaper reached out and she asked if she could write up a piece on my studio. And I, of course, said, well, sure, why not? And she ended up doing the most incredible job putting this article together. And then, to my absolute surprise, she actually had the article on the front page of the paper. I couldn't believe that I was taking up that much space on the front page with my seemingly little shop. I had several people reach out to me to let me know they saw it, and I'm super thankful. I think it's going to really help drive more people into my space as we move into spring and summer and create some curiosity about what this is and also just help people know that I'm here. All right, so what you've been seeing me do though currently is I was working on getting that little painting that I've had in my hands all finished up by putting my little artist card on the back and getting a price tag on it, and then trying to figure out, am I going to hang this on the kind of gallery wall behind me, or am I going to display it on one of the shelves on the other wall? So I was just kind of figuring all of that out, and then also figuring out my pricing, because I have like a formula that I use for each thing. That way everything has consistent pricing, but I don't have all of that memorized. So I had to kind of figure that out. So if you're curious about that, I know I'm always curious about an artist's pricing for their paintings and their work. I use a price per square inch. That's how I calculate it. And I have one for canvas and then one for like wooden panel, because the wooden panels are much more expensive to paint on. So I have a slightly higher price per square inch for those kind. And that was what you saw me figuring out. It was a little wooden panel. So I was pulling the other ones off the wall just to double check I was being consistent and actually still had that pricing for all three that I was looking at. And here is a cute little look at the little lady I was just telling you about. I like to fill this little moon and stars full of treats so that she has something to look forward to when she comes into the studio, and she can learn that, hey, it's a happy place. I don't have to bark at everyone and everything that walks by the windows. So I hope you enjoyed a little peek at her. She's super precious. So like I said, super slow week, which meant a lot of really fun painting. And this was the largest painting I have made in this space yet. This painting was, I think she's 18 by 24 inches, and she made me work for it. I had a really hard time with the composition on this one, because this was one where I had a plan on my iPad, and I was really trying to follow it, and then somehow as I was painting it kind of like morphed a little bit, and the trees didn't go exactly where I had them planned, and the waterfalls didn't go exactly where I had them planned. But now that I look at it, I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. Right here you're seeing me paint my edges. I like to paint them gold. I think it's fun and gives a whimsical touch to my paintings. And I was really excited to get this super big painting up on the wall, because she helped fill up that gallery wall quite a bit, and it actually feels more like a studio and shop with more paintings on the wall. It just makes me really happy to see them all up there. So at this point we are at the varnishing stage to seal this off, and it gives it kind of just a nice subtle shine, because I use satin varnish. So once that was all done, then I actually displayed this in the window for a couple of days and then put it on the wall. But if you saw at the beginning of the video, you can get kind of a glimpse at how that gallery wall looked first versus at the end, I'm going to show you with all of the new paintings that I created this week, how much more filled up it looks. I've been really enjoying painting waterfalls and pine trees lately. It is a very common thing to have around here in our town, not just our town, but the whole surrounding area. We do have lots of different waterfalls and we are surrounded by pine trees. So it's no surprise that I'm inspired by those things. And when I stepped back, I realized that this painting actually reminds me of Tequamanon Falls. If you've never been, you might want to look it up. It's a pretty cool spot. A lot of tourists tend to go check that out. And Bond Falls as well. I love Bond Falls. So this painting kind of reminds me of both of those locations, and they are not too far from us. So that is probably where this one came from. Sometimes I don't exactly know where the painting is coming from in my brain as it's working its way out onto the canvas, and then after it's done, I'm like, oh, this actually reminds me of this place or this place. So just kind of an interesting peek into my brain and process, I guess, for you. On my easel behind me, you are seeing the other two paintings that I'm going to work on this week as well. So you're getting a little peek into what's coming. Okay, here is a final look at this big waterfall painting in pine trees. For me, this is big. For other people, this will look small, but this is the biggest painting I had made to date in the studio. So overall, I am happy with it, and I think it turned out really dreamy. I just had to get through those stages of frustration and the ugly phase, which I think happens for me anyway in almost every single painting. And I don't think I said, but this painting was entirely done with acrylic. Lately, I've been experimenting with starting with acrylic and finishing with oil, but this one I did entirely with my acrylics. So let me know what you think about this one. She is officially for sale both in the shop and online. Okay, and then I took a little break and I realized I really needed some more signage. So I took this old chalkboard that I had and my Ohuhu acrylic paint pens, and I made myself a really nice bold sign that is now in my window, and it has just a list of items of things that people can find inside my shop, because I know people are passing by the windows and they're curious, but not curious enough or maybe brave enough to step inside. I think maybe art is a little intimidating. I'm not sure. If you have any insight into this, feel free to let me know. But I think by having this chalkboard that says the specific items that people can come in and find will help just kind of make it a little bit more intriguing and get them to step inside the doors. So I ended up putting like art supplies, coloring books, stickers, and things like that, and greeting cards. That way it kind of lowers the intensity, because I think if you just showed original art or made people think it was like just like gallery style art, a lot of people might be nervous to come in and think like, well, I don't want to be rude and just browse the art and not buy something. So if you make it clear, I think, anyway, this is my thought process. If I make it clear that this isn't just art on the walls, that it is also kind of gift shop style, I think it'll help. So tell me your thoughts. Do you think it'll help? And then for my birthday, my husband decided, let's go ahead and get a neon sign. So if you watched my day in the life video not too long ago, where we also spent a day in the studio here, I mentioned really wanting to get a neon sign for the window, and my husband was like, let's just do it. Let's call it your birthday present. So I have picked one out. The thing I have to decide on is the color. I know that red is the most like eye-catching and whatnot, but I just really don't want red. It just feels, I don't know, violent or something. I don't know, or harsh. And I know that like there's psychology behind the different colors, and so I was kind of looking into that, and I wanted something joyful and inviting. It feels like creativity. It feels warm and welcoming, right? That was what I wanted, but I'm nervous that if I go, like, for instance, if I go with yellow, which feels joyful and warm and welcoming, it may not show up as well, especially since those windows are so much in the sunlight. They get so much sun and the neon might not show up super well if it's faint. And so I kind of do have to go with something a little bolder. So I was thinking like, well, pink is close to red without being red. So I was considering pink, I was considering purple, but again, this is another thing. I'd love your thoughts or insight or opinion on this. What do you think is a good idea for a neon sign in the window that gets a lot of sunlight but will help people see that I'm actually inside and working that day? What color should I go with? What are your opinions? One of the problems I am having is people not knowing that I'm here, because my open sign is pretty small out on the sidewalk, and if cars are parked next to it, you can't tell from far away. And because so much sunlight hits the windows, you also can't see that my lights are on inside. So a neon sign right in the window will help a lot. So while I've been chatting about that sign, now we are working on painting number 2, or actually this is painting number 3. You saw the quick glimpse of that kind of field of wildflowers and trees. That's kind of a funny painting, by the way. I had intended to put like a butterfly into that painting, and then as I got into the flow, I just started adding more and more flowers and it filled up really fast, and I felt like adding a butterfly would have been too much. So you saw a glimpse of that like on my counter all finished. I didn't actually record any painting because I got into a flow, like I said. But right here, we are working on a painting that I actually really ended up super happy with. This is going to be kind of a field of poppy flowers, some really pretty red, pinky red poppy flowers. Or maybe magenta is a better word. I've always been really bad at naming colors, by the way. I know I'm an artist, but it's something that I struggle with. Anyway, I loved this painting. I had so much fun and again found a really good flow here. The clouds made me so happy to paint, as did the flowers. So this, I'm doing acrylic right now, and then I start the flowers in acrylic as well, and then I finished it all off with just a little bit of oil paint over the top, and I felt like it gave so much more depth to everything and just made it feel even dreamier. So here we go in with some poppy flowers. Again, this is acrylic right now. I'll switch to oils later. I don't know if I actually filmed any of the oil painting. I might not have, but if it's something you've never tried, starting with an acrylic paint and then putting a little bit of oil over the top, I highly recommend it. It's very fun and satisfying. Just don't do it in the reverse order. You don't want to do oil first and then acrylic over the top. That will not work. So you want to start with acrylic, which is often better because, right, acrylic is not as expensive, so you can fill up more space and get more layers down without feeling guilty about wasting paint. And then you put your oil paint. Once the acrylics are all dry, you can put some oil paint over the top. That's the order you want to do it in. Highly recommend experimenting if you are into painting like this. So as I'm working on this painting, you will see me kind of looking over to the left occasionally at my iPad. And so what I do for a lot of my paintings is I collect several source images and then I combine them in my brain. I don't always make like a photo bashed source. Sometimes I will just take elements of different photos and then put them onto the canvas as I'm working. So I will paint in a background, for instance, and just kind of find that flow state and paint it however it kind of comes out. And I'm using the reference images for like lighting and shape and just kind of combining things however it just comes out. And once the background is done, then I will take a little, what are they called? It's kind of like a water-soluble crayon, the Caran d'Ache little crayons. I will use one of those to draw out my subjects, so like my flowers or my trees or placement of anything large that I want to make sure I get into a good composition. I will draw them out with those little crayons because if I make a mistake, I can just take like a wet paper towel and erase it away. So that's what I usually use to plan out my paintings to some extent, because I like leaving room for play and flexibility. I don't like having it drawn out perfectly because that sucks the joy out of it for me. The drawing part of painting is my least favorite thing. Also, let's talk about this like really great posture I've got going on here. It could not get any more real, you seeing that kind of hunched over horrible posture as I'm painting. I probably should have things more elevated so that way I'm not having to do that, but I don't have the perfect supplies and furniture for all of that. So this is how I often stand. So in between all of this painting this week, I also finished up the line art for my 7th coloring book, and that's going to be coming out April 22nd, 2026. And if you'd like to watch me working on that coloring book, I posted that video last week. It's a draw with me style coloring, or video, excuse me, and you see me working on all of the final line art, and I give you some tips about how I create my work or my coloring pages for that book. If you're interested, you can find that on my channel as well. So this week was full of lots of art making, between making those coloring pages and painting, and it was a really fulfilling week. I love when I am able to turn out that much artwork, and also just watching these walls fill up has been so fulfilling. And then hopefully they'll empty out by the end of summer and people will be able to have some of my artwork in their home with them, and these paintings will find brand new homes somewhere. However, I should also just say, if you ever see something that you like, you can always reach out. A lot of these paintings are also listed for sale on my website, and I will absolutely look into shipping them. So we can always chat about that as well. If you ever see something that you just have to have and you would love the feel of it in your home or your space, definitely let me know. It might still be available, and I would love to send it off to you so that you can enjoy the artwork in your home. So this current week, right now as I am working on this voiceover, I actually started a brand new series of paintings all about birds, bees, and butterflies. So it's a combination of florals with a little bird, a couple of bees, and a butterfly or a moth into each painting. So I'm doing the same thing where I'm taking several different images and kind of creating my own vision for each painting. Currently I've got 2 that have cone flowers with one has a little wren, the other one has a little yellow bird with some bumblebees and butterflies. So I've been having a lot of fun working on those, and if you'd like to see a video of me creating that series inside my gift shop and studio, let me know. I'll do some more day in the life or week in the life videos. But here we are, this painting is all finished. It is displayed in my shop now, and in just a second you're gonna see the full view of that gallery wall with the big new painting on it. Thank you so much for spending this week with me. I hope you got to do something creative while we were chatting and painting. There it is. It looks so good. Thank you for being here, and I will see you again next time.